A Jedi is supposed to be a keeper of the peace, but in LEGO Star Wars, that's not so easy. So to restore the Jedi back to their old ways, I attempted to beat the entire game while killing as few enemies as possible, and it nearly broke me. To complete this challenge, I spent 2 hours on the dumbest jump imaginable, reset the same room 100 times for perfect RNG, and even had to discover a new glitch. And the final kill count, let's just say, is much higher than you'd expect. So, what actually counts as a kill? I counted a kill as any death actively caused by the player character, meaning I can't kill enemies with blasters, lightsabers, deflected blaster bolts, the force, or by pushing them off the map, but if they're dumb enough to jump off the map on their own, or an NPC takes them out for me, that is allowed. I will first attempt this challenge in story mode, then after use extras and Freeplay to get the final answer. Starting the challenge off in negotiations, we can easily get past the droids in the hallway, as well as in the vent, but in the final room things get a little more hectic. We need to force this platform to jump over the gate, but before we can, we get shot by the swarm of droids, stopping us from doing so. Luckily, if we utilise the invincibility frames from respawning, we get just enough time to build the platform. From there we can use this panel and enter the MTT. Invasion of Naboo is pretty similar, where we can simply walk past all of the droids, as well as escape from Naboo, where we only need to be careful when shooting these targets, and in Mos Espa Pod Race we can't even attack, so we can skip straight past. In Retake Theed Palace we can avoid killing until the final room, where we need to kill these 5 droids guarding the prisoners, as the panel to end the level only spawns once they die, so no out of bounds tech will work. The only way I could think to get around this was to have them walk off the map themselves, but unfortunately they don't move unless pushed with the force, so I had begun to think this level was impossible. At least that's what I thought. While the droids won't move when they're on screen, if you move away and come back, they'll actually have moved slightly. At first this wasn't very helpful, as they walked away from the hole. However, I found that if you take them to the other side to this point here, they'll actually walk into the pit. This can be repeated for the other 4 droids, allowing us to open the hangar doors. Darth Maul isn't any easier, as straight away we need to destroy 3 waves of droids to get Maul to lower the bridge. However, we can cross the gap another way. By jumping onto an invisible platform, then onto this light, we can just about reach the other side, avoiding the bridge entirely. In this room we have more problems, as we need to defeat these commanders as well as all of the battle droids to move on. Fortunately, instead of killing them ourselves, we can get the droids to shoot each other off the edge, and for the final droid, we can get the player 2 AI to push them off the edge like so. Unfortunately, straight after, these droidicas appear, who we need to defeat to press both buttons to move on to the final boss fight. But for some reason, if we stand on this platform as we defeat the final droid, the droidicas won't spawn in, meaning we can just move on and fight Maul, who actually survives this fall. This means we end episode 1 with 0 kills. Luckily Bounty Hunter Pursuit can be skipped, as the only enemy in this level is Zam Wessel, who gets killed by Jango. Discovery on Kamino is also pretty chill, where the only difficult part is this room here, as we can't leave until all the droids are defeated. However, we can avoid this room altogether. By using a drop-in warp, we can drop player 2 in the next room, avoiding that room entirely. We have the exact same problem in Droid Factory, where we need to defeat these Geonosians to open the door to the next room. Unfortunately, no drop-in warp or out of bounds tech will work, meaning we have to add 9 kills to the tally. Luckily the rest of the level is a breeze. However, we now enter Jedi Battle, which as you could guess by the name, completely wrecks this challenge, where to finish this level, we need to defeat 21 droids to rescue the captives, another 12 in the arena section, as well as Jango at the end, totaling to a staggering 34 kills. Fortunately, we don't need any kills in Gunship Cavalry, despite how much these droids love to get in the way, as well as in Count Dooku, meaning we end this episode with 43 kills, 9 in Chapter 3 and 34 in Chapter 4. Quickly moving on to Episode 3, we don't need to shoot any droids in battle over Coruscant, but in Chancellor in Peril, things get a little more tricky. In this room we need R2, but he only comes out after all of the droids are defeated. I tried getting out of bounds to swap to him from inside the room, but that didn't work, and while we can move on to the next room without him, we still need him for this door, meaning we have to add another 14 droids to the total. Further into the level, we are supposed to defeat Dooku to move on with the story, but we can actually avoid the boss fight. If you use a super jump here with R2, you can get out of bounds and hover into the next room, leaving Dooku alive. From there we can beat the rest of the level easily. In General Grievous, the only enemy is Grievous, who we do have to kill to end the level. Defense of Kashyyyk may be the most painful level yet. The only intended kills are these 6 guarding the Wookiees. where we can just trick the other clones into pressing the buttons for us. But the sheer amount of clones in this level made it feel like I was actually living out Order 66, with the end room taking me over 30 minutes due to constantly being shot. Luckily, Ruin of the Jedi is much easier, as there aren't as many clones, and we can skip past Darth Vader, as there aren't even any enemies to kill, meaning we end episode 3 with 15 kills, 14 in chapter 2 and 1 in chapter 3. This means we end the prequel trilogy with 58 kills, but is the original trilogy any easier? Well, straight away in Secret Plans, we are supposed to defeat 12 stormtroopers to get past this door, as if we don't, there is an invisible wall blocking the way. But whilst we can't access the door from the front, we can from the sides, so if we do a super jump cancel using lag, we can get our character out of bounds, and walk around to the door to enter the next room. Not much further into the level, we hit another obstacle, as to get past this room, we need to shoot this explosive to get Darth Vader to move. But these stormtroopers are blocking the way, meaning we can't hit the barrel without shooting them. However, if we go back into this room and re-enter the Vader room, the stormtrooper's position will reset, giving us time to shoot the barrel. In this room, to get C-3PO across this gap, we need to drop these stormtroopers into the void to get Rebel Friend to lower the bridge. But we can actually get C-3PO across without lowering the bridge. Well, the crane won't reach this platform. If we walk off the edge with C-3PO, then quickly use the crane, we can just about grab him. Unfortunately, in the next room, we do need to kill these 16 stormtroopers to get past, as unlike the previous rooms, I was unable to get out of bounds, as no transition skip or super jump worked. But the rest of the level can be done kill-free. Fortunately, the Jundon Waste is much kinder, with the Tusken Raiders and Jawas just being a minor inconvenience. But the same can't be said for Mos Eisley Spaceport, which has stormtroopers everywhere. The first problem is entering the cantina, as the door only opens after these 9 enemies are defeated. Fortunately, there is a workaround. By using the speeder, if we push player 2 against a wall, they will get nudged out of bounds. From here we can walk to the door and enter the cantina. The next problem is all the way at the end of the level, where to lower the Falcon door, we need to kill 42 stormtroopers, as well as the Imperial spy, at least I think, as he appears later in this cutscene, meaning he either has access to Palpatine's cloning program, or is secretly a Jedi in disguise. Luckily, there is a really clever way to avoid this boss fight. By forcing R2 with Obi-Wan, then dropping in, we can get to the Falcon without triggering the boss fight. This means the door remains open, so we can simply enter the Falcon. The next level is Rescue the Princess, which is somehow even worse. While this level seems easy at first, this gap will change your opinion very quickly. Normally, to get past this section, we need to kill the stormtroopers on the other side to allow Obi-Wan to build the bridge, as the gap is too far to jump across. Well, not quite. While it is too far to jump across normally, by using both players, if we shoot Han mid-jump, he gets a slight boost, making this gap barely possible. And I mean barely, as in order to get across, you have to time a frame-perfect jump and shot while controlling both players at the same time. Fortunately, by landing more than one shot, you get a slightly more lenient window, but in order to get this, you have to time a dive roll with Luke to get a burst shot, adding even more complexity. After a few solo attempts, I realised it would be impossible to do by myself, so I had to recruit my girlfriend to aid me with this challenge. So after 2 hours of fail after fail, with close call after close call, we finally hit it. Thankfully, the rest of this level is easy from there. Death Star Escape is slightly better, as we can make it through most of the level without any kills until the final room, where to enter the Falcon, we need to defeat around 22 stormtroopers to get the Falcon door to lower. However, instead of shooting them, if we come back with a stormtrooper helmet, instead of shooting at us, the stormtroopers will start wandering around the room. This may not seem useful at first, until you notice this pit over to the left, which for some reason, the stormtroopers don't detect, and will just walk straight into. So, if we wait for around 20 minutes, enough stormtroopers will fall in the hole to lower the Falcon door so we can enter. We can easily get past Rebel attack without shooting, meaning we end episode 4 with 16 kills, all coming from chapter 1. Unfortunately, our 0 kill streak ends with Hoth battle. In this room we have this wall, which can't be blown up till the ice is melted, which can only be done by destroying this AT-AT. However, instead of blowing it up, we can simply fly over it. By doing a loop-de-loop and dropping in player 2, we can spawn them above the wall, giving just enough height to get over it. Unfortunately, this is where the good news ends, as just like in Jedi Battle, in the final room we have to defeat every enemy. Escape from Echo Base is mostly fine, with the main issue being this room. To get past, we need to blow up the door to build the panel, but since these snowtroopers are in the way and can't move, we can't shoot the door without hitting them. Instead, we can clip ourselves out of bounds using the snowmobile, like in Mos Eisley Spaceport, to get past. We can skip straight past Falcon Flight, and in Dagobah, the only enemies are these bats and a vision of Vader. The only spot in Cloud City Trap where killing is usually required is DV3, where we need to kill 6 stormtroopers to get through, but instead, we can just jump over the gap to end the fight early. The first issue in Betrayal over Bespin is this room, as to get across this gap, we need to defeat 24 stormtroopers to get this grapple platform to spawn. Luckily, we can just get the stormtroopers to shoot each other off the edge, so we can move on with no kills. We meet the exact same problem in the final room, however this time, instead of getting the stormtroopers to shoot each other off the edge, we can walk back to this point here, then come back, as it tricks the game into thinking the end room has been completed, loading the end trigger early, so we can walk to the door and end the level. This means we end episode 5 with 35 kills, all coming from chapter 1. In Jabba's palace we can avoid killing until the very end of the level, where we need to drop this gate on the Rancor. But in the Great Pit of Carkoon, we don't need to kill at all, even Boba Fett, who actually survives the Sarlacc pit. In the Speeder section in Speeder Showdown, we have to defeat 4 waves of scout troopers in order to lower this gate, totaling to 14 kills, but we can actually skip this section entirely. By getting player 2 stuck here, if we get player 1 to go on top of them and do a flip, we can drop out player 1 at the peak of the flip to gain just enough height to jump over the gate, as if you drop a player out while they're in a vehicle, they don't actually drop out, but instead exit the vehicle. We can avoid killing in the Battle of Endor pretty easily, and for Jedi Destiny, the only kill we need is on Palpatine, and yes, he does die here. Unfortunately, the final level into the Death Star is the hardest of the entire video, as the first room is an absolute nightmare. In this room, we need to destroy 4 Star Destroyers, each with 2 torpedoes, that we get from destroying TIE bombers. Seems simple, right? As we just need to defeat 8 bombers. Well, not quite. See, when destroying a TIE bomber, there is only a 33% chance of it being replaced by another bomber, and since the level starts with 2, this means we need to get 6 out of 7 in a row, which is a 5 in 729 chance, or about 0.7%, so we only need 6 kills right. Well, no, as it's actually possible to duplicate torpedoes. After a ship is destroyed, if player 1 and 2 collect the torpedo on the exact same frame, both get a torpedo, which means we would only need to destroy 4 ships. But what if we could do even better? Remember how I said at the beginning of the video, I discovered a new glitch? Well, I found out it's actually possible to duplicate a torpedo after you die while holding one, which means you only ever need to kill 1 ship, as you can keep duplicating the same torpedo infinitely, which means we would only require 1 kill to complete this room, and no more for the rest of the level. This means we end episode 6 with only 3 kills, 1 in chapter 1, 1 in chapter 5 and 1 in chapter 6, bringing our final total in story mode to 112 kills. But what if we include free play and extras? Well, in Droid Factory, we can actually escape the start room without any kills, using a lag clip to get through the door. This is where we swap from a small hitbox character to a large hitbox character to hit the transition zone through the door, saving us 9 kills. And in Chancellor in Peril, we don't need to rescue R2, so we can avoid the 14 in this room. In Secret Plans, we can use a triple jump with Yoda to clip through this ceiling to jump over the door, meaning we don't have to kill the 16 stormtroopers to open it. And finally, in Into the Death Star, we can spare 1 kill by using infinite torpedoes, as we don't need to destroy any of the TIE bombers, meaning we end this challenge with a final total of 72 kills. For the remaining kills, 34 are in Jedi Battle, 1 in General Grievous, 35 in Hoth Battle, 1 in Jabba's Palace and 1 in Jedi Descent. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my other videos, and as always, thanks for watching.